It is day 101. Kind of hard to believe that I'm saying 3-digit numbers. Over the weekend, I co-hosted a Women in Tech event in Santa Monica at Good Boy Coffee. That was a really good venue. We needed a little bit more seating and a little bit more shade, but the food was really good, conversation was really good. I was planning to do work on Friday and Saturday, but I ended up not having the energy or focus to do that, so I took the weekend off completely. Today, still kind of tired, had 3 hours of class to get through, and I've done one thing so far today, which is go through LeetCode 252, which is working with intervals, and then tonight and tomorrow morning before the interviews, I'm going to go through and brush up a little bit on FTPS systems, which might be in the interview, and general things for React and JavaScript. Nothing too fancy, maybe working with calendars and dates, which could be something that this company would be working with. But overall, a very slow day. I think I probably did too much. Not the last 4 weeks, but the 4 weeks before that. I'm still kind of recovering a little bit from that. But yeah, that is the very first day of the week, very slow. Tomorrow's going to be interviewing, so I'm sure it's going to be a little bit intense. And I will see you all then, post-interview. Today's interviews and last week's interviews use basically every single skill that I built over the last 5 months and more broadly over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even larger than that, over the last 10, 15 years as an IT person, as an engineer, just as a technically inclined person. So it was really, really amazing to see all those skills have uses, to be valued, and to allow me to do those interviews well. Definitely really challenging, definitely on my toes, kind of fun, a little bit anxiety-inducing, but overall, I think I want to keep building those skills and keep applying to senior positions, and I think I'm going to land something soon. So I'm really excited to see where the future will go. Just finished the 2 hours of interviews, and the first hour was data structures and algorithms. It was mostly class-based problem. Really simple things like if-else statements and text and arrays, things like that. I think it was pretty practical. And I finished just in time. It was not a very elegant solution, but I got to talk about why it wasn't. So it went really well, I think, in my opinion. Had a 30-minute break in between, and then it was a system design type interview, starting with here's a problem. Our application is loading slowly. How can we fix it? And we started from the front end and basically moved all the way into the back end to databases and horizontal scaling and sharding and message queues and just about everything that I practice for system design. So overall, I feel like for both interviews, everything I did over the last 5 months was absolutely critical, which is really amazing to see all that work pay off. And now I'm going to take the rest of the day off. Not actually, but definitely going to just chill for a little bit and go for a walk and absorb it all and make a plan for the next month. I think I'm going to start getting back into job apps and building things and everything else. This was the last 2 technical interviews, in addition to the one last week that I needed to do. So I think moving forward it's going to be cultural and behavioral type interviews with probably C-suite people. But yeah, I will check back in a little bit later today, and I will see you all then. I feel like a big weight has been lifted off of me. I'm really excited about both of the job positions that I did interviews for last week and this week. So I really wanted them to go well, and they mostly did. Now that that's over, I feel like something has been released, and now I can go ahead and start applying to jobs again and working on projects again and growing DSA and system design skills again, kind of holding my breath a bit. But anyway, I went off and applied for 4 jobs today, and I did the system design interview, I did the DSA interview, so that kind of takes care of that. And then I'm going to take the rest of the day off, and then tomorrow kind of get into things full swing again. And I will see you all then. Today 103 of 20, and started today off with what was supposed to be a live DSA session, but no one showed. Did LeetCode 62, which is a DP, also has an explicit math formula, so I started diagramming that out, trying to think about it. Got about halfway through it. Didn't write any code today. After that, I had 3 hours of class that took up most of the day. And then after that, I did system design for 15 minutes, going through design Facebook feed with posts and followers. And then I spent probably the last 45 minutes rewriting my entire resume again, to kind of make it more senior level based on all the feedback I got through all of these interview pipelines. I lost one more of the opportunities I was in, so I'm down from 4 down to 1 right now, which is a little bit sad because the opportunity that I lost was like a math science heavy role and the team was really cool, but I am still in the pipeline for my top choice, so I'm really excited about that, and hopefully I'll hear back from them soon about the next steps. So I rebuilt the resume and I did one job app, and it's pretty late, so I'm probably going to stop here for today, and then tomorrow it's a little bit lighter. I'm going to try to get into building the project again, and all the other things, job applications, DSA, system design, things like that. But yeah, that's day 103, and I will see you all tomorrow. It is day 104 of 20. Started today off with DSA, going through more of LeetCode 62. I finally figured out the math combinatorics explicit formula for that and coded it up, and then realized that the code does not work without big ints. And so you have to do factorials in a special way to kind of keep the number size small. So that was that, and then after that I got into 15 minutes of system design, going through design Facebook feed, basically pre-computing feeds for followers and users. That was pretty interesting to go through. After that I applied to 3 jobs, I think, a little bit less than normal, and then I had a class and some stuff in the afternoon, and then the last 2 hours I finally got into building out the backend microservice again. It's been like a month with all the interviews and so much stuff, setting up Google Cloud and the Docker image, building that, learning about architecture, building for different architectures and multi-architecture images and things like that. Got Docker and Google Cloud together to push the Docker image up to Google Cloud. So that's now up and it is active and running, which is really cool. And I gotta say, doing it with AI is so much better. There are so many little errors that pop up. You just toss them in AI and they tell you exactly what to fix. Doing things like this like a couple years ago would literally take like multiple days, and so you can kind of just fly through with modern technology. But I'm basically almost done. I have the message queue in place. I have the Google Cloud Google buckets running, the Docker image uploaded successfully, and there's like a little bit of cleanup I need to do basically for getting the Google Cloud instance to talk back to the message queue to tell it that it's complete, update the database, authentication, all these little things here and there. I'm imagining it'll probably take 2 more full days, and then after that adding an observability layer, and then stress testing this service to see if it works or it fails or whatever. But pretty fun, really cool to see all this work, and that is day 104, and I will see you all for the last day of the week tomorrow. Today's day 105 of 20. Started today off with data structures and algorithms, going through the last little bits of the mathematical solution to LeetCode 62, all the ways of implementing that in code, taking the combinatorics formula and simplifying it down into an iterative for loop, and then rounding because JavaScript under the engine is floating point numbers, which I kind of understand, maybe like 75%. And yeah, that was the solution for LeetCode 62. After that, I got into 15 minutes of system design. I finished up designed Facebook feed and doing pre-computed feeds, fan out on write, fan out on read, and that was that. And then I applied to one job, a senior founding engineer position here in Los Angeles for a startup, which looks really cool. And 3 hours of class, and that's it for today. Gonna keep it light. Tomorrow I'm gonna be in the office, working at the startup, and then also doing a mock interview for my brother, who's also preparing to get into software engineering roles. But yeah, the week is over, but the work is not done. I will see you all on Sunday for week 22. It is day 106 of 20. Started today off with data structures and algorithms, going through LeetCode 62 again, now doing the DP solution, the 2D DP solution, which is basically to build an array for the whole thing and fill in the values one by one based on the other values in the array. It's actually a really simple implementation. After that, I got into system design. I tried a Hello Interview hard system design one. It's a metrics ingestion system. Just kind of doing it for fun, mostly just copying the answers down to kind of see what a system that complex looks like. After that, I got into 3 job applications, pretty quick, no custom responses needed. And then after that, I spent the last maybe 1.5, 2 hours getting the production scale PDF generation backend service finally working. It's probably not optimized, but it's actually working. A lot of things tonight. So first thing was getting the QStash verification working so that only QStash can upload to Google Cloud Run. And then after that, getting Google Cloud to upload to Google Cloud Buckets. And then also updating Supabase with error messages and status completion once it's done. And then adding an idempotency check so that if something fails in the pipeline and the job is already complete, QStash won't retry that and regenerate a new PDF if it's already complete. And then finally, QStash was taking the whole payload, which was above its size limit of 1 MB, and so I had to adjust that and make sure that I was only sending the job ID to QStash, and then the actual payload was being stored in Supabase, and that might still be inefficient. I'll have to check to see if that's going to work in the future. All of that was built by AI very quickly, doing little small checks here and there. I reviewed most of the code, maybe like 70%. I still need to go through and go line by line to see every single change, and then see if the architecture decisions that I made actually make sense. But anyway, that is today. Over the weekend, I did the mock review with my brother, was in the office, did not get much done, besides a little bit of a job application, going through a pre-interview questionnaire, and then I had a bunch of other things going on. But yeah, that was the weekend, and then today, and I will see you all tomorrow on Monday. One thing I haven't really talked about that has been pretty helpful over the last 5 months is microlearning. So following creators here on TikTok that do software dev content, small articles on LinkedIn and just scrolling through, just subscribe to Medium, and I get daily articles from there over front-end architecture and what's a monolith versus microservices and things like that. And you kind of pick up all sorts of vocabulary and ideas and concepts in little small bursts, 5 minutes here and a minute there, which is a great way to kind of, again, fill out your skill set. And that's been super helpful. It is day 107 of 20, and I started today off with data structures and algorithms, as always, going through an easy leak code, finding duplicates in a list, just going through sets and maps and hash maps. And then a second one, a medium, top K most frequent items in a list, looking at min heaps, max heaps, and priority queues, things like that for the naive solution, I guess. And then there's also a linear solution that I'm going to try to explore tomorrow. And then after that, I got into 3 job apps and then system design for 15 minutes, looking at the metrics monitoring system, which is really helpful because I'm about to add an observability layer on the PDF backend service that I've been working on. Then I spent about 30 minutes going through TypeScript fundamentals, which I said I would do 2 weeks ago, but I finally got to it starting today, using Fullstack Open for that, doing small exercises there. Today I went through types versus interfaces and went to use them. And then finally I got into the backend service, which was to look at how to stress test it, and then the different levels of observability that I can add to it. And then learning what the difference between observability and monitoring and telemetry is, and then the difference between slows, slaws, and slides, or SLOs, SLAs, and SLIs. Just, again, very high-level understanding, just to be aware of those things. And then, again, for microlearning, I saw React 19 now has a use, which replaces webhooks done the old way, which is use effects and things like that. And so I was implementing that using AI just to see how much code it would take, what the complexity looks like. Got into really niche things like suspense boundaries and cache disciplines, and I have no idea what any of that means, but I was just kind of curious to see what it looks like in code. But anyway, that is everything I covered today, quite a bit. I only had 1 class. I wanted to do a bunch of exploring and learning, and then tomorrow's going to be more class heavy, so I'll probably get less work done. But anyway, that's day 107, and I will see you all tomorrow on Tuesday. And unfortunately, I lost the last of the 4 interview job opportunities, and it was my top choice, and I was, I think, in the second to last round for it. So I think on the downside, of course, I lost all 4 opportunities. On the upside, I made it to the second to last round, so the skills are there. I kind of know what I'm looking for. It's just a matter of starting over again and getting into another interview pipeline and going through all of the rounds of interviews. Honestly, the last one wasn't too bad. It was initial call, hiring manager, and then 2 back-to-back technical interviews. So just gotta keep looking, find something that's a good match. I'm really curious, honestly, about feedback from those interview rounds, but I may or may not get any from any of the 4 because the recruiters were part of that company. They weren't external recruiters. But today I started off with data structures and algorithms, going through the code 347 again, this time doing the linear solution using buckets, which is a really cool way to approach that problem and solve it. And then after that, I got into system design, going through the metrics monitoring system, looking at how 5 million metrics are sent to a database for storage using Kafka and things like that, parallel consumers, all way above my skill level. I'm just kind of curious to see what that looks like. And then after that, so far I've done 1 job app. I think by the time I post this video, I'll probably do a couple more. I'm going to get back up to 5, 6 per day now that I'm out of all the interview pipelines. And I don't think I'm going to do any MVP work today or any TypeScript basics today. Just try to absorb the shock and then tomorrow start anew and fresh, or maybe not tomorrow, but the day after that. But that's day 108, and I will see you all tomorrow, as always. Went on a walk. I'm going to try to do 10,000 steps a day. One thing I realized is that it wasn't just losing the last job opportunity that sucked. I think it was also realizing that I don't have any goals kind of for the next 1, 2, 3 months, which I've had for the last 5 months. So that walk was kind of just bringing things together, thinking about the last 5 months and deciding that, I need new goals for the next 2, 3 months to make this interesting and keep me moving. So those goals I think will solidify tonight, maybe tomorrow. It's day 109 of 20. Started today off with data structures and algorithms, going through LeetCode 133, which was a graph problem, cloning a graph using a map to scaffold the clone and build it, which is really cool, using BFS to start out. I mostly just copied that code down today just to see the approach. I would have never thought to do it that way. And I also haven't done graphs in forever, so needed the assist on that one. After that, I got into system design, moving through the metrics monitoring system, publishing alerts to a Postgres database that then can be taken up by an alerts evaluator to look at the data streams, the time series data, and do things with it. After that, I applied to 6 jobs. I'm back up to my job numbers that I was doing the last 2 weeks. I'm going to try to keep doing that moving forward. And then after that, I went to a networking event over in OC and met some people, talked to some data engineers, software developers, things like that. And then just right now, it's been about half an hour going through this entire PDF generation backend service and realizing how much cleanup I need to do on all of the files. It's working, and now I need to think about architecture, testing, and then refactoring basically the entire thing. But that will be the end of today, and then I will see you all tomorrow for the last day of the week. It's day 110 of 20. It feels like I've still been dropped off a cliff, but started today off with data structures and algorithms, rebuilding the solution to LeetCode 133 from scratch, then going into system design and continuing to work through the metrics monitoring system. I forget what I did today. I'll put it on the screen. After that, most of the day was just not doing coding, the gym, and 10,000 steps, going a long walk. That helped a little bit to bring together some ideas of how I want to refactor the code for the project and things like that. 2 classes, 2 hours of class, and then I went to a networking event in Santa Monica. That was really good. Met a bunch of Black women in tech and bioinformatics in that space, which is really cool. So After that, came home, got into job applications, got through 6 job applications. Some of them were good fits. I kind of just wanted to get some job applications sent out just to get momentum going again. And did not get to project work, which I really wanted to get to today. So that's going to happen probably over the weekend, tomorrow morning. And that is the last day of the week. But of course, once again, the work is not done. And I will see you all next time on Sunday. Hopefully next week, the momentum will start to pick up again and get over this little rut that I'm in currently, but also give myself the grace to kind of process it as well. Anyway, see you on day 111. The weekend, just trying to shore up my energy and focus and drive for another 1 to 2 month sprint. And thankfully that happened. It really kind of came together last night. I did not do any work, did not do any building, anything like that over the weekend. I'm actually glad that I didn't. But that meant today I really needed to catch up and do a lot of work. And the good news is that this coming week is going to be spring break for all my students. So I'm going to have a lot of free time to really get into building and applying to jobs and doing all the things that I want to do. But in terms of goals that I was talking about, kind of like bringing together for the next 1 or 2 months, 10,000 steps a day, 5 days a week. That's kind of the more active side, just to give me something to run towards. The rest of the goals are kind of just keep doing what I'm doing, which is building this project, DSA, system design, networking, finding jobs, and just being consistent. So maybe not super exciting, but consistency is important. It's day 111 today. Hit the ground running with DSA, going through the DFS solution for LeetCode 133, and then looking at a new problem from Blind 75, which is LeetCode 200, which is number of islands, and solving it, and then allowing AI to kind of help me write all the code quickly. I'm going to have to do that from scratch probably tomorrow. And then I got to 6 job apps, and then system design. I finished the metric monitoring system problem, not really, kind of sort of. The last parts of that, the deep dives, was way beyond my skill level, but I was kind of reading and like applying things, and Apache Flink, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly, for alert windows and sliding window alerts, and then availability zones for like durability and high availability, and then meta monitoring. So this is the monitoring system, but you can have monitoring on a monitoring system. So that's just like really interesting to see. I'm going to downgrade back to medium level system design questions moving forward. After that, I did some TypeScript review for about 30 minutes, going through basic types and things like that. I'm going to keep doing that every single day. It's going to be part of my new goals, is to get through the rest of TypeScript basics, which is like type narrowing and generics and things like that. Just a couple of things left to look at. And then the rest of today was taking this PDF service I've been working on, pushing it into production, hitting some issues there with authorization, and then top level side effects and runtime boundaries. So knowing the difference between client, server, and build time. So I'm still kind of learning that. No, I understand maybe like 60-70% of it, but a whole lot of things today. The production build is not ready to deploy yet. I still need to fix the authorization, and I need to fix the Supabase client is not working currently, so I have to get that working as well. That's the first day of the week. I'm going to try to do this amount of stuff every day as much as possible with less classes, and I will see you all tomorrow. It's day 112 of 20. Started today off with data structures and algorithms, going through LeetCode 200, which was number of islands from yesterday, going through and rewriting that code with a little bit of assistance, trying not to use too much brain power. And then LeetCode 39, which is a backtracking algorithm, going through the DFS solution for that, mostly kind of passive again, just seeing the code for it. I kind of solved the problem and then used the solution to just like write the code, because I don't want to spend too much time really doing DSI. I really want to focus on project building and things like that. After that, I got into system design, going through design Tinder, the very first parts of that. So non-functional requirements, core entities, API routes. And then after that, I got into 6 job applications, or 5, and then I'm working on the 6th one right now. I actually have a referral into it, which is really cool. And that's probably going to take a little bit more time. There's a cover letter due for it and more custom responses. So it's for a big, well-known company. So kind of excited about that one. I'm going to work on that for the rest of the night, and then I've started getting into the project again. I got the authorization working, and now I need to get the Supabase is not working now that it's deployed, so I need to work on that and some other things. But there's lots of work left to do. It's 11 p.m., but I spent the early part of the day kind of doing other things. Last thing is I have an interview on Wednesday. It's for a junior role. I'm going to try to talk to them and negotiate up to maybe like a mid or senior level role. I just saw the tech stack was aligned, so I wanted to reach out and like see what opportunities are available at the company. Anyway, that's day 112, and I will see you all tomorrow. It's really interesting how going from a 45-minute walk, 6,000 steps a day, to 10,000 steps a day, which is like an hour and a half, really changes things. It really resets my brain after like a really deep focus session in the morning. The hour and a half like brings together everything that I was thinking about, stepping back from the code, stepping back from the job hunt, just everything. I'm like getting clarity on so many things, personally, professionally. So I would highly recommend. It's day 113. Started today off with data structures and algorithms, going through LeetCode 200 again, rewriting the whole solution from scratch. Then going through LeetCode 39 again, diagramming it out, looking at how permutations are excluded from the solution list. Then after that, got into system design, going through design Tinder for day 2, going through the high-level design, getting the stack or the feed, setting preferences, setting profile. After that, applied to 6 job applications. And then after that, got into TypeScript, looking at type imports, and then going into the project and actually cleaning up the whole code base and making sure that type imports are required across all the files. And then how Next.js basically cleans up code and does tree shaking. Not entirely sure what that does, but just learning and building. Basically for the rest of the night, I'm going to be working on that code base, and then I have a bit of design work to do for an event that I'm going to be hosting in summer. Very excited about that. So something else to kind of run towards. That's day 113, and I will see you all tomorrow. I have an interview and a resume review session, so a lot going on tomorrow. Had an interview this morning with a Series B startup, a unicorn actually, that acquired another startup. And so they were looking for both senior engineers and then also an engineer support, like a mid-level, high ownership, really important like site reliability. And my resume had founding engineer on it and founder. So I was like, I'll get into this interview. They're expecting founding engineer type energy. And so I was like talking about scale and collaborating with CEOs and C-suite and, you know, system design and architecture. And they were confused, very confused. So I don't know what that means. They said they're going to talk to the hiring manager and see if there's a fit there. But yeah, I think it went well. We'll see where that goes, if it's a rejection or not. And then I will update once I get more news on it. But it's day 114 of 20. Just got back from the resume review event in OC. That was really helpful. Got like 6-7 people to get eyeballs on my resume. Kind of go through it with a fine tooth comb. So I'm going to try to implement all the changes before I send off job applications later tonight. It's already like 9:30. But I started today off with DSA, going through LeetCode 39, writing it just from scratch, get more familiar with DFS and how that works. And then after that, I got into a new LeetCode 147, which was linked lists and rearranging them. Supposed to be in place, but I did it with an array first, just to like see how it works, and 2 pointers. After that, got into system design with Tinder, going through how to do writes for really write-heavy databases like Cassandra. I've never used Cassandra before, heard about it. And then the notification system, so for Android and for Apple, kind of how the notification systems work, looking a little bit at that. And then a class, resume review, and then right now. So a lot of work to do tonight. Gonna go through, again, update the resume, send off job applications, and then get to TypeScript and the project, and that will round up the rest of the day. And I think that's everything. I will see you all tomorrow for the last day of the week. It's day 115 of 20. It is week 23, the last day. Started the day off with data structures and algorithms, going through LeetCode 143 again, doing the in-place solution, which is a lot more complicated. I understood about 95% of it. Probably will take another day or two to be able to write that code from scratch. After that, I got into system design, going into design Tinder, looking at APN notifications for Apple, FCM system notification system for Android, then looking at, for 20 million daily active users, what it looks like to do matches quickly, and also send us notifications quickly. So that's having a Redis set, and doing atomic operations, and then looking at how atomic operations happen across sharded clusters. Don't entirely understand that. I'll be looking into that more tomorrow. And then after that, I spent about an hour and a half, probably 2 hours, redoing my resume from basically all the advice I got from the resume review event last night. And then after that, I applied to like 3-4 jobs. And right now I'm really targeting like Series A, Series B startups, and that seems to be working really well. They really like engineers that have a generalist kind of skill set and high ownership. So we'll see. I got one interview this week, and then I also got to take an assignment from another application that I applied to this week. So the momentum seems to be picking up. The traction's there. Just got to keep going, and hopefully we'll land something soon. Anyway, that's the end of the week, and I will see you all on Sunday for week 24. Another day, another failed code signal assessment. 116, week 24, started today off with a 90-minute code signal assessment. Another day, another failed code signal assessment. Code signal is not bad. What's really bad is that you don't really know what you're going to do before the assessment. It's a TypeScript React AI. No idea what that means. And then code signal gives like these pre-assessment practice little code environments to get familiar with the platform, except none of them have TypeScript and React combined together. So I started the assessment. Right off the bat, the TypeScript was throwing errors before I even wrote a single line of code. So I spent 30 minutes trying to get the TypeScript to work. That was a mistake. I switched out of TypeScript to JavaScript and then started moving. To my own fault, I should have reviewed React basics and TypeScript basics, because I've been writing so much of that with AI recently. I had to get back up to speed during that assessment, but got through half of the tasks, 2 out of the 4. So failed that one, but it was good getting back up to speed. I think I'm going to create a custom assessment for myself using AI in my local environment, and just get back up to speed on API calls, React, TypeScript, sometime this week, maybe tonight. After that, got into system design, going through more of Tinder, looking a little bit more at atomic operations across distributed shards. That still doesn't really make much sense to me, honestly. I kind of skipped that question. Maybe we'll come back to it. And then looked at how to pre-compute feeds so that matches can come in really quickly, and then having a cron job look at the database and create like a stack, so as you swipe, matches come in and people come in quickly. After that, I applied to 6 jobs in total, and that brings me to right now. I had 2 hours of class and other things like that. Tonight, I want to get into React, TypeScript basics. So I'm going to skip work on the project and try to take a look at some of that stuff for front end. That was a senior front end assessment I did earlier today. But that's the start of the week, and then I will see you all tomorrow. Editor here. I forgot. Over the weekend, I've spent quite a bit of time doing a final pass of the resume and updated it, and I'll put it up at the end of the video. It's day 117 of 20. It is Monday. Started today off with DSA, going through LeetCode 200 from last week. This time looking at the DFS solution. After that, I got into system design, wrapping up design Tinder, going through a couple of things. The very first one was change data capture and what happens when it fails. So talking about like graceful degradation, and then after that, talking about how to check whether a user has been swiped on, which can be checked with hash maps or sets, and then at really large volumes using Bloom filters, which I don't understand how it works underneath the surface, but I have an article up about getting into that. Pretty cool. And then finally, implementing the transition from sets over to Bloom filters using something like Redis Bloom. And then after that, I got into 7 job applications a little bit later in the day. And then I got into TypeScript, React, HTML, CSS basics, continuing to build out this front end by hand, which is really strange because I don't think I've written any CSS in like 5 months. Haven't written any React by hand in like 4 months. But all the skills are still there. It just takes a little bit of refresh. And tomorrow I want to get into designing an API route and then writing to the local system. All again, doing it by hand to be ready for any front end full stack type of assessments like I had with Code Signal yesterday. That is everything for day 117, and I will see you all tomorrow on Tuesday. Well, it actually is Tuesday right now, but tomorrow is Tuesday. If you're a developer advocate or you work in developer relations like DevRel, I'm really curious to know how you got into that career path. It kind of seems like it's a networking thing, or you're working in a company as a software developer and then you kind of get shifted into that career track. But I have met a lot of people in that career track the last 5 months. I kind of considered it before, but I was looking at positions today and I was like, wow, this really aligns a lot with the skills that I have, which is a lot of networking, hosting events, content creation, being an educator, which I've been for 11 years now, and then lots of coding, basically always learning, and willing to translate the technical into the non-technical. So I think it would be a really good career fit. And it is day 118 of 20. Started today off with data structures and algorithms in a live session with like 3 or 4 other people. We went through LeetCode 100 and LeetCode 572. So same tree, and then if a tree contains a subtree. After that, got into system design, going through designing LeetCode, going through the non-functional requirements, core entities, and then the API routes. And then after that, applied to 7 or 8 jobs. And again, some of those were now DevRel opportunities. Pretty excited about those. And after that, I spent about an hour typing out React by hand, React to TypeScript, to get more of that TypeScript React experience, not using AI. And that kind of wraps up the whole day. After dinner, I'm going to try to get into the backend project, the worker queue stateless server architecture that I've been working on, and that will wrap up the day. Yeah, I think that's everything. I will see you all tomorrow on Wednesday.
Stage startup, which most of you are.
That was yesterday, day 119 of 20. That was Startup Cafe in Venice with the co-founder of Firefly, one of the first private companies to land on the moon. That was a really incredible talk. The stories of how they kind of went through the ups and downs in bankruptcy and came back was really inspiring. And I think one of the great pieces of advice from that talk was talking about building teams and talent teams. And he was talking about you need to meet about 100 people to get like 2 people that will actually help you, or be able to provide references that can help you. So that helps a little bit in this job search where I'm applying to hundreds of jobs and hearing back from like 10, but that was the start of the day. In the middle of the day, I had 3 hours of class, and then I went to another networking event in Long Beach at the end of the day, and was there for about an hour talking with more people, a lot of remote software engineers and how they got into their positions. And that was basically the whole day. It was a very early start, like 6 a.m. And I applied to a single job, and that was basically the whole day. So gonna try to do a little bit of catch-up work today, but not too much. And then I will see you all tonight for the last day of this week, which is also the last week of the first 5 months. Yesterday was day 120 of 20, the last day of the first 5 months. And it was a little bit of a different pace once again. Started yesterday off in the office, going through and applying for 9 jobs, and then spending the rest of the afternoon negotiating with the CEO about potentially joining on full-time with a paid position with them, so they have some funding enough to bring me on. And that was all of yesterday. Today, in about 30 minutes, I have a call with a startup out of San Francisco, and then on Saturday, I'm hosting our monthly event in Long Beach. So that is the end of this week. A little bit different, a little bit shorter, kind of experiencing a bit of fatigue. So not doing my usual schedule, but we're going to get back into things starting on Sunday next week as we move into the 6th month. It's the end of the first 5 months. Here's all the takeaways from the last 4 weeks. 84 job applications, up from 26. 23 rejections, down from 26. No coffee chats. 6 networking events, up from like a couple last time. 18 new LinkedIn connections, mostly stable. 3 interviews, a phone screen, DSA interview, system design interview, and then 3 recruiters reached out over the last 4 weeks. What went well? DSA, system design, front-end skills are pretty solid at this point. the resume is reviewed by probably like 7, 8, 9 people at this point, and it's pretty well rounded. And it's getting a lot more traction, mostly due to the fact that I've been at the startup now for like around 6 months, and recruiters love to see you employed in a role that they're hiring for. And right now I'm basically exclusively focusing on startups, front end, and then DevRel full stack roles. Again, at like early stage startups, pre-seed, seed, and then A and B rounds. But it didn't go well. Didn't really spend as much time on the backend services as I wanted to. I kept getting pushed to the end of the day, so I'm going to try and probably push it to the very first thing that I do in the next 4 weeks, and then do all the DSA system design stuff after that, because most of those skills are where they need to be, and they just need to be maintained and like pushed forward a little bit at a time. And that's basically it. A very short summary, and I will see you all in the next 4 weeks.